Good morning and welcome to First Atlantic Commerce. Here on the FAC Live Show, we cover all things e-commerce in the Caribbean. Our guests join us from all over the world and generously share their expertise, knowledge, and insight into the digital world and how we operate within it. If you join us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you grow your business online. And today we're talking about can we teach education bridge? Can tech education bridge the digital divide in the Caribbean? I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and clearly I am tongue-tied today. So I'm going to introduce our guest to help me along the way. Today I'm joined by Eldred Garcia, the Vice President of Senior and Partner Development at First Atlantic Commerce. How are you doing, Eldred?
Good morning. I just want to make sure that I'm off mute. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me, Polly. Doing great.
Thanks for joining us today. I know you have a busy schedule, so we're going to get into it. We're also joined by Jayme. She is the SVP of Business Development at SmartTerm Limited and brings over a decade of experience in education management to the table. Hi, Jayme. Just want to make sure your mic's working.
Yes, it's working. Hi, morning, everyone.
Great. And finally, we are also joined by Maria. She is an education specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank, which is known as IDB in Washington, D.C., where she leads and collaborates on the design and execution of a wide range of education sector projects and reforms throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. So welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here today with you.
All right, so we're going to get straight into it because people usually think 60 minutes isn't that long, but we're talking about education, something that never ends. As someone who is currently learning Spanish, education is so important for all of us. So I want to start with Maria and ask a question when it comes to the technical education, because, you know, we're very hospitality focused in the Caribbean. Going around the world, you usually associate with trees and beaches and sand. But when it comes to the development of the Caribbean in the 21st century, why do you think technical education is important?
Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to share with you that in general, when at the IDB, when we talk about technical education, we're not talking only about technology and digital skills. We're talking about all the skills that are needed for to prepare people for work, for specific jobs, to write, to access, to have the right skills to access, maintain, and progress in jobs in different areas. However, when we talk more about these technology, digital skills, and technological education, we think that it's really important, at least for two reasons. First, to help the countries to build the skilled workforce that they require to unlock the digital transformation. We all know that digital transformation, the new AI revolution, they promise enormous benefits in terms of productivity, in terms of diversification of the economy. You mentioned that several of the countries in the Caribbean depend and work a lot in the hospitality industry. Sometimes it's important to improve the diversification. So this technical education, it's important to enhance efficiency and the quality of the services, not only digital, but also in general, and also to create new sources of value. I just want to mention that without these type of skills, countries are not going to benefit from the digital transformation opportunities, and without the talent, it's really important. It's really difficult to advance. The second reason is to help workers to adapt to the rapidly evolving nature of jobs. We know that the job market is changing at an unprecedented pace. Digital skills are increasingly necessary to access job, to maintain the current job, and also to transition to roles in higher demand. So technical education is really important to provide the foundation to pursue careers in maybe, for example, traditional areas that are increasingly requiring digital competencies, digital interactions, online interaction, access to platforms, and different type of things. Um, Also to access job opportunities in emerging fields like big data, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and very important for the Caribbean, I think, it's to prepare individuals for new ways of working, to access, for example, teleworking. With the COVID, we see we saw that teleworking increased a lot, and also to work in remote digital platforms. All the gig economy is exploding right now, and technical education, it's really important to provide people with the skills they need in order to be able to work in these platforms and have like access to jobs worldwide.
And I think that's the remote conversation is a strong one right now. But I want to take a step back with Jayme and find out, because we tend to have these technical conversations around um, digital education, and sometimes it could be as simple as learning how to activate your two-factor authentication,
Yeah.
because a lot of us are working, living, basically sharing our lives online and don't understand the repercussions of it. So this question is for Jayme in terms of the current challenges hindering us to that education, because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but a lot of people think there's this massive technical requirement when it comes to the tech space. What say you, Jayme?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Pauline. I think when we look at what happened in 2020, 2021, there was a massive surge in the education technology industry. And this surge was as a result of ministries of education within the Caribbean responding, and a key word here is responding, to a world crisis where school doors were shut, and it was shut due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And there was an increase in the usage of platforms like Zoom, Teams, LMS, and so much so it was a booming year for our company, SmartTerm. Um, it also highlighted the need for the focus on STEM fields and other tech education areas. So as bad as the pandemic was, can you imagine our technology readiness today if the pandemic did not occur, right? Since 2016, we as a company would have been preaching about digitization, but it took a massive pandemic for us to really jump into that suit to say, well, let's get things going. But for us to be fully ready for something like a pandemic, again, it comes back to the number one challenge, which is the curriculum. um, I think we have to ensure that all students have access to updated curriculum with quality tech education, regardless of socioeconomic status. That's the first and foremost. Our ministries of education throughout the region, we need to kind of revamp it, look at what is the nuances, what is happening now in the innovation and technology sphere, and really try to integrate that into what it is we're teaching in the schools. It also comes back to another challenge of teacher training. We need to upskill our teachers. We need to prepare them with the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively teach, tech within the classrooms and teach these subjects. And it does not only look at the subject itself. When you talk about, like computers or mathematics, it looks at digital literacy. Are our teachers ready to engage the classroom? Are they ready to understand what is happening in innovation and technology, and how is that being integrated within the classroom? And then it looks at another challenge, which is student engagement. So we need to make tech education more engaging and relevant to a diverse student population. And when you look at our children, our students, when they leave the classroom, they spend most of their time on these social platforms. So we have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and they consume information in a very different way to, maybe the past 10 years. So we really have to look at different ways of engaging them. If it's, digital content, written content, in classroom content, or field trips, we have to look at those different ways of engaging them and really strategize on what is best for different groups of students. I think when we fail to address some of these challenges, and it's a whole plethora of challenges, there's socioeconomic challenges, different challenges within the classroom, within the household that may affect students' performance and outcomes. So if we fail to address these challenges, the digital divide will perpetuate.
Thanks so much for that, Jayme. And shout out to Trevor, letting us know that he joined us late, but that's okay. I want you to know I've recently learned that Mexican time and Caribbean time are the same thing. So we're good to go. If you miss any conversations, don't worry. Once we're ending this, you can check it on the replay. All right. So we're talking about the conversation around tech education and bridging the digital divide in the Caribbean. And I want to ask Eldred in terms of the e-commerce space, because there's this fear, because most of us fear what we don't know, when it comes to joining the e-commerce space. How important do you think it is for companies, folks who lead these companies, the managers, the CEOs, to have a little bit of that tech education so they can transition in the e-commerce space easier?
Well, Pauline, thank you for your question. I'm in line and I concur with everything that's being said so far. The educational component is key. So I'm currently at a conference, been having conversations, and you have vendors who are trying to come into our markets because they see the opportunity, and they come into our markets with great technology, and they have a belief that if they bring great technology, that's pretty much all it will take. And the conversation goes around the idea that there are gaps in our markets that we need to address and identify, and one of them definitely is technology, but the other one is part of this conversation is education. You can have great technology, but if there's no education, then the technology essentially dies on the vine, if you will. So one of the key things that I think is important, and one of the things that we focus a lot on at FAC is the educational component, and we do it by partnering up with subject matter experts in the industry. So understanding that not everybody is on the same level with understanding with regards to e-commerce, for instance. One of the things that we have to do and focus on is making sure that we create a level playing field where everybody has at least the same level of understanding, so we can have a productive and constructive conversation, right? So if you have several folks having a conversation and some of them are quite advanced in their understanding of how e-commerce works and all the players and the technology, and then you have the other side of the table not understanding the basics, then they're going to be a significant amount of gap in that conversation, and progress will not occur. So partnering up with some of the subject matter experts is key for us. And what we do is we go to schools through banks, we go through to the employers, and we partner up and have conversations where financial institutions can bring their expertise to the table. Fintechs can come to the table and bring their expertise. Third-party vendors can come to the table and bring their expertise, and we have a much richer conversation. So partnerships is key. And platforms like this, where we bring people from different sides of the conversation to the conversation so we can understand their perspective, is additionally is key. So we've been focusing on this conversation right now on students. And while students is a great component, but we need to also focus on the actual employees and the workers in today's fields. We have technologies that's coming in that's going to be disrupting. It currently is disrupting. You have artificial intelligence that's disrupting the work environment. And while students is a natural focus for education, they are naturally inquisitive and trying to learn things, while current employees have somewhat a little bit more resistance because change is scary, like you mentioned. So we need to make sure that we focus on both sides of the fence, on the students and on the employees.
I love that point you made about purchasing the most expensive technology, because I feel like our phones are a great example. We all want to have the latest technology. I have conversations with folks, and it's like, how much of your phone do you actually use? How much of these features do you actually use? Because you're still making lists on a piece of paper, which I do, but I also use my notes app in addition to scheduling things on your calendar. And I think the conversation around digital divide, and you're mentioning, younger folks are more adaptable. It's kind of scary, but interesting that you see a 5-year-old able to search for their YouTube favorite song and dance away while their parents are like, how did you figure that out? So yeah, so we want to further the conversation, but we're going to come back right after this break. And welcome back. Thank you so much for joining First Atlantic Commerce. FAC Live covers all things e-commerce, with guests joining us from different islands and across the world, sharing their knowledge on the digital world. You're not going to find these conversations anywhere else. Trust me, I look for them. It's not possible. So ensure you smash that subscribe button so you don't miss a single live show, and be sure to comment with any questions, and we will definitely try to answer them today. Today we're discussing, can tech education bridge the digital divide in the Caribbean? And we've discussed quite a few things earlier on. If you missed anything, not to worry. Once this live is over, you can check it on the replay. So in having this conversation around tech education, we have to talk about what tech education programs are available to the Caribbean audience. So Maria, can you share some insight on that first?
Tech education programs are available in different ways. Right now, as it was mentioned before, during COVID-19, we saw a very high demand of MOOCs, of boot camps, of different programs that are being offered outside of the education system, and more within the education system. Universities are partnering with Coursera, with edX, with different educational platforms to offer this. We also see that many of the big tech companies are offering courses, and I will say that the supply of courses and places to learn about digital skills and tech education, it's huge. What we have seen in the data, in our analysis and analyzing how this evolves, is that the most important part, in order to make sure that people can benefit for the availability of courses, information, and education, it's to provide students, and like either if they are in the school system or outside of the school system working, is to provide some support in terms of following up with the courses, finishing the courses, accessing the courses, understanding which type of education courses are more relevant for their vision, for their purpose, and then building some of these communities to support students whenever they find a problem, whenever they need to advance with some of the issues. Because what we have seen is that, given that even in this very large number of courses that are being offered, what we observed is that a massive number of dropouts. People start these courses, but they don't finish. And what we have seen in our data analyzing, for example, large experiments of offering access to Coursera or other different MOOCs, is that less than 10% of the people that start with the course, they finish the specific courses, no matter the length. And in general, those who finish are those that are highly educated, that are like in less disadvantage. So in order for like to really democratize the access to this tech education, it's really important that the countries offer support to all the students to access, to identify which one, and to finish on time, to finish and continue learning from whatever it's available. If that's why the boot camps are so effective, because the boot camps not only offer the digital content and the material, they also bring this support to the students, the tutoring, the continuous like community that it's behind these students in order to make sure that they are going to finish, that they have someone to answer the questions, and that they can continue and finish on time.
Wow, that's so interesting because I too fall into the category of not being motivated once it's online only. One of the reasons I'm currently in Mexico City going to school learning Spanish, it's because I need that, in person, and, having someone to be like, okay, you need to send this in by this time. And I think that's such an interesting point when it comes to this tech space, because obviously we're using all these tools. But I want to touch on a conversation about something Jayme mentioned earlier as well, when it comes to the different demographics and socioeconomic positionings. How does that affect someone once they start these? Because you have all these free courses like Coursera. I recently finished a digital marketing course as a refresher, but it's definitely has to do with the privilege of time and being able to have access to the internet. So Jayme, how important is that?
Yeah, definitely it is important, Paula. And I think having access is a major part, as well as understanding digital literacy. And most of the times, rural areas are not being covered, or, socioeconomic challenges. We don't have, there's single parents, there's not enough income to actually even have current or even have internet coverage, or even to say have a device. So all of these things play a part of the ecosystem in ensuring that students, that persons are tapped into benefiting from tech education. So I would say infrastructure development is a major part, and you have to look at expanding internet access. You have to look at, who are the service providers, the Digicels, the B Mobile, the Flow. Those are the ones who have to extend high-speed internet through rural and undeserved areas. And I think there's great collaboration that can take place between these providers and government, where if not, a particular area or a particular home in undeserved areas, look at the schools, look at the libraries, look at the community centers. These are common areas where, these particular grouping of students would be able to meet, would be able to benefit and have access to digital literacy. Many times I see, ministries of education, they distribute tablets and stuff at the beginning of school term, or even when we had the pandemic. A lot of tablets and laptops went out, but there wasn't really, the infrastructural development behind it. Do they have access to internet? Is there a particular system or a particular structure that is, built into the laptop that will guide the usage of the laptop, or guide the usage of digital literacy, and and learning about the different tech education courses? So there's a number of factors, that is interplaying here to ensure that students get the tech education that they need. Even things like customizing educational content. I remembered in the pandemic, yes, teachers were forced to go online. They had to adapt quickly to new ways of teaching. However, there was not enough localized, contextualized content, to assist them within the virtual classroom. So you're looking at different, localized content as well as flexible learning modes. Because as I mentioned before, students learn differently. So you have to have, different types of content, bits and pieces of content for them to really, engage, for them to really focus. And you also look at language, you also look at, backgrounds, and when you structure in these different types of content, again, this will increase motivation, increase engagement, and also increase their outcomes.
Great point, because we're also in a time where a lot of us are consuming content on social media, and 4 or 5 seconds in and we're bored already. So
Yeah.
I think being able to create content that grabs the attention is getting harder and harder, not impossible, but definitely something to look at. So when it comes to the idea of having economy, back in the day before my time, um we're talking about things like, we had typewriters, we had this idea of being able to assist someone who's doing traditional work. But now we're in a world where we're talking about digital economy, and a lot of things start from there. So when it comes to, and this question is for Eldred, how can we have I guess, skill our workforce to contribute to the Caribbean digital economy? Where can a business start?
Well, Pauline, thanks for the question. I do want to quickly circle back on the previous question, because I think there's a couple of things here that we definitely need to keep in mind. So one of the things that we talked about is that we need to be flexible with regards to the different models that we use to provide contents, and the infrastructure for that is key. As you probably know, and as I've shared before, I live in an island as well in Puerto Rico, and I work remotely. So infrastructure for me is key to be able to access the internet. And this is how we're getting all this education. I personally had to explore at least 4 different ways for me to be able to connect. For a number of different reasons, but the technology was there, but it just wasn't there for me. I couldn't get access to the internet because I was in a place that that technology would not reach where I had moved. So I had to explore different ways in order to get that that internet connectivity where I was located. That was number one. There are different ways, but some of the folks may not have the means to actually obtain that infrastructure, which goes to the second point: is how are we delivering this information, right? So if we're delivering it in a way that we have to leverage that technology, and that technology is not available, then we have to look for different ways of delivering that information. And that goes to maybe not live streaming. Maybe we need to be able to provide ways like, hey, I travel a lot. You want to look at a series in Netflix. What do you do before? You download the entire series onto your phone. And then when you're on the plane, then you can watch the series offline. That may be another way to approach being able to deliver content. So an individual who does not have access, once they get to an area that they do have access, they're able to download the educational content and then obtain it at their leisure, or on flexibility. Another thing that I think is important. They may not have the fundamentals in order to be able to leverage that education that we're trying to provide to them. So some folks may read better than others. Some folks have, different learning disabilities. There are applications out there that facilitate that educational process. So, and this is not a plugin for any particular software, but there are softwares like Speechify that allow you to provide content to an individual. That application will allow you to will read to the individual not only the content, but in a much faster in a shorter period of time. So now you have the ability to provide the content in a way that the recipient is able to take it in the way that they can take it in and be able to leverage it. So I think understanding all these things is critical, not just providing the content in traditional ways that we think of. Education is key, and like I said before, partnering up with the right people once we're trying to train our folks is key. So one of the things that we do at FAC is we understand our core business very well. We're in the payments business, but we also have to deliver value-added technology to our clients. and we can't be everything to everyone. So we even best of breed partnerships, which is if we have to deliver a technology, we look for that best partner to deliver that technology to our clients. We do an integration, and then together we can provide the best of breed solutions to our clients. And I think we have to take a similar approach in education. So if we know that AI is impacting our employees, impacting the future of our employees, impacting our industry, then we have to go and look for those experts in that technology, whether it's AI, fraud prevention, or different platforms, partner up with them and have them in conjunction with ourselves to be able to deliver that education that's needed in order for us to get from point A to point B.
Thank you for that, Eldred. We're going to go on a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have a conversation around competing on a global scale. So we'll be right back. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the First Atlantic Commerce page. The FAC Live show covers all things e-commerce, and today we're discussing Contact Education Bridge the Digital Divide in the Caribbean. Today I'm joined by Maria, Jayme, and Eldred. We're going to bring them back in, and we've had a robust conversation so far. Don't worry if you missed it. We will have it on the replay. Just shout out to Brendan following us from LinkedIn. Just want to reference his comment. We must ensure that the technology is built for purpose. Teacher training plus hardware plus software equals success. The secret sauce is teacher training. So I think that was definitely supporting Jayme conversation there. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit to Beryl, because Beryl, I don't know where she come from. She really need to go back to where she was and have her time wherever she started. But at the end of the day, we have seen some devastation. So grateful for all the supporting islands. Definitely thoughts are with these islands. And I've seen these discussions in Barbados and Trinidad, Tobago as well, where I've had friends say, we need to stop sharing all these horrendous photos because it's affecting what people are canceling their trips, because they rly on tourism. So it's a very difficult situation because on one hand, obviously people need to be helped now, and then people are thinking about the future and tourism. So when it comes to digital conversation around tech and being able to have a skill set, I want to start a conversation with Maria in terms of how we can put ourselves on a global scale to be able to say, okay, cool, we are creating a space where we're building up, but also we're creating this new space for digital economy for folks to have something in addition to hospitality. Where can we even start that conversation?
Oh, no, that's a tough one. I think that as it was mentioned before, the very, very first step is to deal with the basic skills, very, very basic digital skills. The second one is to analyze what are the trends in the market. I was reading recently an analysis of Corn Ferry and about the how many jobs will be required, for example, in 2025, just in the area of technology and telecommunications. And they said that in the global markets, almost 2 million jobs will go unfulfilled because no one has the skills to work in them. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for the Caribbean countries to prepare first with the basic skills, but also to start looking at some other skills that are in highly demand for these big companies. And some of these jobs can be done remotely. They can be done online. So there's a big opportunity to start developing more skills that are, for example, in the realm of programming, web, and web development and app development. Those skills are really in high demand, not only here, in different parts of the world, but of course also in other countries that are increasingly in demand. Now we know that, for example, the artificial intelligence is also increasing, and the demand for artificial intelligence it's huge. So building like a good structure of supporting students to learn about these skills, to have access to this type of skills. And the last one that I will highlight is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a huge issue. Here at the IDB, we look around like what the education system can do in order to create digital citizens that can use the technology, but they also understand the rights and the security protection. But now in the Caribbean and in the rest of the world, what we see is that as people and countries are increasingly using digital technologies, the threats to security are huge, and the demand for cybersecurity for students and people and workers that know about cybersecurity and can deal with that, it's increasing. So I will say that this is a huge opportunity for the Caribbean countries to invest in.
Yeah, and we have such a high internet penetration rate as well. I recently learned that there's a job called prompt engineer when it comes to the AI space, and there aren't that many people who know what to do in that space. So there is some opportunity there in the tech space. And when it comes to the conversation around, the future of the workforce, I want to ask Jayme, are you seeing that shift? You work with schools. I'm assuming you'll have some data on what the curriculum is looking like. Are you seeing that shift and understanding that the change is happening or it's coming? Because the idea of, I saw a report that said a lot of kids want to be an influencer. Cybersecurity doesn't sound sexy. So what say you on that?
Yeah, I think definitely there's much more focus being placed on tech education, especially after, the pandemic. A lot of ministries are really trying to increase access and also increase digital skills in the education sector. I think we can do, much more than what is being done now, but I do believe that there are initiatives and programs being put in place. I know specifically for Jamaica, they have a couple of programs, skills for tech development, I think it's tablets for tech education. So they have different initiatives and programs that is being rolled out so that students can be abreast. But yeah, again, social media, TikTok, everything is so prevalent and in front of them and in their face everywhere they turn. These are the things that they're consuming and these are the things that they're seeing. These are wanting to become an influencer, nuances. Fields that they want to go in. But I think, if we engage them from an early age in fields such as Maria mentioned, data analytics, cybersecurity, software development, digital marketing, all these are fields that are much needed as time progresses and as the trend shows. So if we engage them from an early age through STEM fields, courses, programs, and integrate that fully into, primary schools, secondary schools, and put more emphasis on it, I believe that more students will want to go, into those areas. I mean, there are more of the high-paying areas, and it's only, later on as a student or as a child growing up, you would now see that, okay, these are some of the fields that I would want to go in rather than some of the traditional fields our parents might push us into, the doctors, the lawyers, and these type of fields, So I think it's a matter of curriculum development, where ministry puts more emphasis on these type of fields. And I think looking at our challenges, you spoke about hurricane barrels and different things that we are associated and known for, the carnivals, tourism, these different type of sectors. I think we really need to kind of look at the challenges there and see where the need for tech is, and really push that innovation and change, where educating our students to kind of fill some of these gaps within the education system.
Yeah, I don't know how to make cybersecurity sexy, but that's something that, in marketing, we one of us could figure it out. I'm pretty sure we could
Yeah,
figure it
yeah.
out. But yes,
Give me a shot,
uh,
Pauline. I'll help you.
I don't know, like the idea of changing your password every 2 months and teaching someone how to do that, it just doesn't. It's not as impactful as Mr. Beast building 100 houses in Jamaica. You know what
You,
I mean?
you
So it's like
understand,
we're
right?
fighting. We're fighting against some
Oh
storytelling
my.
here, so it's not impossible, but yeah, it's gonna be hard. So the conversation has to be a collaboration between private and public sector, and I want to direct this question to Eldred and maybe share some insight into how that collaboration could help move us as a Caribbean forward, because you are currently at an event that focuses on the Caribbean, being able to understand how that will help the tech conversation as well as private sector being involved.
Well, Pauline, let me merge the last question with this question, because I think it's quite important. We're talking about education, and we need to understand that one of the things that I always say, the only constant that we have is change. And one of the things that we used to think about when we talked about education was focusing a lot on the hard skills that were being taught in the educational system. So accounting, legal, healthcare. But a year ago, I did a presentation on the future of the workforce. And one of the things that, ironically enough, at that time, my son was still in school and at the university, and he was graduating with a bachelor's undergrad with communication, editing, journalism, and stuff, which are considered soft skills. And with that, I mentioned that we need to focus on a lot of those soft skills. And when we talk about education, we need to focus on those soft skills, because those are the skills that we're really going to start leveraging when we start talking about artificial intelligence and that technology that's being used. So anything that's repetitive in nature in our industry, is essentially going to be replaced with artificial intelligence. So we need to understand, how do we use artificial intelligence? How do we program, develop artificial intelligence? And it's those soft skills that we need to develop in order to do that. Understanding that is going to be critical. We in the payments system, we understand that artificial intelligence is here to stay, and we are embedding artificial intelligence in essentially everything that we do, whether it is cybersecurity, and this is the sexy part of cybersecurity that I wanted to mention. We understand that we are producing as individuals data significantly more rapidly than we were in the past, and there's no way to analyze that by a human at the speed that we're creating it. The only way we can do that is with artificial intelligence, and we use that in order to identify the associated risks in a payment environment, and that is how we leverage AI for cybersecurity and fraud prevention. But we also leverage it on the payments, so we understand behavior patterns, how people behave, what did they buy, what is the chances of them buying something different. That artificial intelligence, we use it to analyze and then predict and offer different payment options on the front end. When we go talk to the Caribbean partners that we have, whether it's financial institutions or tech partners, one of the things that we talk about is, what are you doing to leverage the new technology? How are you delivering it to your folks? And the folks that you're delivering to, do they understand what you're bringing to them? So it's a little bit of the combination. I talked about before, partnering up with those financial institutions locally, with the schools and educators. If the teachers don't have the skills, we need to learn how to teach the teachers how to teach those skills. And the best way that I can do that and share with that is partnering. Don't try to force a teacher to learn about AI overnight to try to teach those students that are going to come into the workforce. Bring in those subject matter experts into the classrooms, whether virtually or physically. Have them explain to the students how the technology works and how they apply it in real life. I think you're going to get much faster traction if you do it that way than if you go try to teach the teacher how to teach the students. My opinion.
Great points, Eldred. I don't think I'm seeing where you say that cybersecurity is sexy. I know you think it sounds like it's sexy, but that's still hard to compete with
sexy.
Mr. Beast chocolate. I don't know if you know who Mr. Beast is, but he is hardcore, number one, top tier. All the kids want to be him. So we're gonna work on that. We'll workshop it, guys. We'll workshop it.
Thank you.
I know. I don't think that it's possible to make cybersecurity as sexy as Mr. Beast. However, I do think, and I really appreciate the mention of partnerships. We have seen it in so many instances, projects around all Latin American and the Caribbean countries. Whenever the education system works in line with the private sector, with the companies, we see a lot of things, good things happening. One very important thing is that we know that students are motivated and engaged whenever they see the value of what they're learning. And that happens when you have good partnerships with companies. Students can see what they can do with the skills. So, for example, in terms of cybersecurity, if you show them how the small skills that they're learning can solve specific real life problems for a specific company, this is really engaging. Maybe never as engaging as social media, but the partnership between companies and education system can help to build these cases, build this problem-based education that is so engaging, that is so motivating, and that it helps students to learn and to start like having a vision of what do they want to do in their lives. I just want to mention that this is something that we are working really hard, for example, in Argentina or in Colombia, where what we're seeing is that a lot of the new generations, that work, for example, in agriculture, they don't want to continue working in agriculture. They don't want to do what their parents have been doing. And right now what we are doing is like we're going to the education, the school system, and partner with companies, with ag tech companies, all these entrepreneurs that are creating digital solutions for the agricultural sector. And we're partnering with them so they can solve, the students can solve problems that are specific to their communities using technology, and partnering and learning and using these ag tech people from companies as mentors. So they have everything together, they start to understand the value of technology within agriculture, which is a very traditional sector. But when the partnerships are available, we have real problem, real solutions, and we have a way in which we can engage the students. And right now what we have seen is that before all these new programs are being offered, students didn't want to stay in the agricultural sector. They just wanted to leave and move over. And right now, with these programs, students want to stay. They are incorporating technology. They are participating differently. They are increasing the value of the crops that the families used to work with. So I really think that the power of partnerships with the private sector is huge. And this is something that has to be re-upped and worked towards to have more of that. I wanted to mention that because it's something that we have learned, and I really appreciate the mention of the importance of partnerships within this digital transition.
Yes, and I also like to add, for me as well, I've been searching for schools. I've reached out to schools and asked if there's any internship programs, and I rarely get a response. I actually end up working with an international company that has universities across Europe and it worked out there. But in terms of access to the Caribbean, it's like another job to find that
Mhm.
for me. So it would be great if that was easier. I'm just gonna put that out in the universe. I don't have a solution. I'm just bringing that. All right. So Kimberly says 100% agree. Teacher education is key. Train the trainer and foster partnership of trust and service excellence. Thanks so much for joining us, Kimberly. We're gonna go on a quick break, and when we come back, we want to get some predictions. We're gonna, throw the 8 ball and see what our guests have to say about the predictions in the future of education in the Caribbean. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Face Atlantic Commerce. FAC Live covers all things e-commerce with guests joining us from all over the world. So we're going to bring them back because today we're discussing, can tech education bring the digital divide, the gap a little closer in the Caribbean? So if you missed any of the conversation, not to worry. Once we finish this live, you can smash that subscribe button on YouTube and you will see this live video and replay it. So when it comes to the conversation around education, tech education in the Caribbean, we've covered so many topics. We've covered partnerships. We've covered, the ability to access the said technology that we have. And I think actually, even before I get into the future of tech, I would love to hear everyone's insight on the impact of the smartphone, because it's something that I find so fascinating. I don't know, maybe I'm too old school because I'm thinking you have this massive tool in your hand and all of us are just literally just doing this, why do you think that we don't see the smartphone as a way to educate ourselves? I mean, this is just, I don't know if this is me for everybody else. So Maria, you want to start?
Why do we think that I don't know. I think that smartphones are a very important tool to learn from. It's something that we need to incorporate into the um, curriculum, into the teachers. For example, what we have seen, it's that there are like new available software that you can install in your smartphone, and you can convert your smartphone to almost like a lab to learn chemistry. But this is not going to happen out of the blue, just looking at it. This has to be incorporated within the curriculum. This has to be like prepared for teachers in order to incorporate this technology within the learning. But the smartphone, it's a great tool to start learning. It just have to be like really well designed. It has to be like a complete vision of how to use it. But I don't think that we are not aware of the power of using smartphones for learning. I think it just have to be like more structured within the education system.
Okay, thanks for that, Maria. What say you, Jayme?
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think Maria, is spot on with her comments about the smart term. Your smart term is literally a miniature computer in your hand, right? And if you don't particularly know exactly what to do with your smartphone outside of, texting, receiving a call, browsing social media, then you just don't know what to do with it. But it comes down to education. It comes down to understanding what do I want to achieve, because the same thing you can do on your PC, on your computers, you can do on your smartphone. You just have to know which site to go to get the education, what apps to download, what to really do on the smartphone. And I think if we kind of like, be open to integrating that in the education system, maybe Fridays, bring your smartphone to school and the teacher shows you, okay, how to operate Google Drive from a smartphone. I think that will be very interesting to see how it pans out, because again, we really have to catch these children, these students from an early age and really build them up, because if we're not doing that, then we're just sending them out in the world to go fish and go find for themselves.
And for those who may not know, Jayme is part of SmartTerm. That's why she said SmartTerm, not smartphone, because that's on her mind. But we got it. We got the gist of it. Eldred, what say you?
Well, I mean, everything you guys are saying is spot on. Jayme, what you mentioned about education on your smartphone, and I'll call it smartphone, is critical. So how do we know how to use our smartphone, right? We buy it from the store and then we start playing around with them. We do what kids do. We intuitive. We try to figure out how things work. But like you said, Pauline, we don't know what we don't know. So there has to be an active educational component to your smartphone. So there's a school component. Jayme, you mentioned it. Teachers have to learn how to teach, how to leverage this tool that they have in their hand to do more than just social media. So if you know how to use access to cloud, how to do presentations, how to communicate effectively using artificial intelligence on your phone. I work remotely. I've been working remotely for years. I don't need a laptop. I can do everything I need to do on my smartphone, whether it's a full-on presentation in front of 50 people off my phone, whether it's download articles that I need to use for leverage, or ask ChatGPT or artificial intelligence to provide a much better advanced content. That has to be key education on the school side. On the work side, the same. If you go to work and you're in a new industry or you're in a new job, the employer needs to tell you, look, in order for you to do your job effectively, you have a powerful tool in your hand. Let me teach you how to use your phone for this job. Go through all the things that you need to learn on your smartphone, accessing files on the cloud, doing presentations, communicating in the internet versus the internet. That is key. We do have a very powerful tool in our hand, and I would argue that we're probably using less than 5% of the power that we have, because we spend most of the time, scrolling, if you will.
Yes, I can confirm that my screen time has confirmed that, embarrassingly. I don't think I think the idea of incorporating in school that Jayme mentioned is so cool, because you have this one extreme to next, either you don't bring it to school or people are allowed to use it whenever. And I think the idea of incorporating in education is such a, I mean, it seems simple, but it's such a great idea. So you look at the phone differently versus when we just buy it and we're like, okay, let's just download all the social media apps and connect on our friends and family and share pictures, right? And I saw something recently that said about 5% of us actually produce content, the rest of us just consume it. So that says a lot. All right, so we're closing up to your predictions on the future of tech education in the Caribbean. If you had to choose one word, only allowed one word, okay, guys? What would it be? One word. Who wants to go first?
You got Latin people on this podcast, right? We don't know how to do one word.
You could do one in English and one in Spanish, so it's technically one.
Fantastic.
Who wants to go first?
Repeat the question, Pauline.
Give me one word that would encompass the future of tech education in the Caribbean. What would you say would your be predictions?
Well, I'll start just to so nobody, I don't have to repeat what anybody else says. It's a compound word, is a paradigm shift. Everything that we know is going to change. The way we do everything will be different.
Okay, great on the one word there, Aldra. Thank you so much. Who wants to join next?
I'll go next, and I will say simply growth, because it's constantly advancing, constantly developing, and we definitely have to keep up with that times and the trends and the growth that is happening.
Okay, thanks for that, Jayme.
I'm going to repeat, Jayme. I think that it's continuous learning, continuous learning. Things are changing so fast, and we have to be able to be open to continuous learn, and the learning process is never going to stop. So we have to prepare ourselves, the education system, teachers, and everybody to support the continuous learning.
Okay, and on that note, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. Again, our thoughts and prayers are definitely with the folks who are affected by Beryl. And if you can, do what you can to support the folks in Union Island and Carriacou. Thanks again to our guests, Jayme and Maria. And LJ is not a guest, he's just part of FAC. And today we discussed Contech Education Bridge the Digital Divide in Caribbean. And be sure to follow our page to get notified for our next live show, #FAC Live. And see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.